I'm Eddie Muller. Welcome to another excursion through Noir Alley. Today's film takes us from the shrouded margins of New York's underworld, its vice dens and bookie joints, into the upper reaches of Wall Street, America's bastion of big business. The two territories have a lot in common in Force of Evil, released by MGM on Christmas Day in 1948. Now, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer distributed the film, but didn't produce it. It's the work of Enterprise Productions, an independent studio created by actor John Garfield in 1946 after his contract with Warner Brothers expired. Garfield's first film as an actor for Enterprise was the 1947 hit Body and Soul, which earned multiple Oscar nominations and remains one of the best boxing pictures ever made. Body and Soul was made from an original story by Abraham Polanski. The screenplay earned Polanski an Oscar nomination for its gripping but grim story of a boxer loosely based on lightweight champ Barney Ross, who struggles to keep his integrity while slugging his way to the top of a profession rife with corruption. Now, flush with the critical and box office success of Body and Soul, Garfield set up Polanski to write and direct his next picture for Enterprise. Polanski essentially returned to the well. Only this time, instead of Garfield playing a scrappy Jewish street kid turned boxer, he'd be a scrappy Jewish college kid turned high-powered lawyer. But the greed, graft, and gangsters would be as rife in the banks and penthouses as they were in Polanski's tenements and boxing gyms. Polanski based his script on the novel Tucker's People by journalist Ira Wolfert. The book is a fictionalized expose of New York's numbers racket, also known as policy. Now, this was, of course, before lotteries became state-controlled legal rackets, something Force of Evil presciently predicts. Polanski collaborated with Ira Wolfert on the script, but made substantial changes in order to funnel the narrative into a fast-paced 79 minutes. And these changes transformed a sprawling story into a streamlined tour de force for John Garfield, playing lawyer Joe Morse, a man whose lack of ethics has earned him an office in the clouds and a side hustle as personal counsel to a notorious gangster. Now, the trouble starts when Joe's brother Leo, played by Thomas Gomez, operator of a small-time policy bank, refuses to join the combination, a forced merger of small banks into a single conglomerate controlled by Joe's racketeer boss, Ben Tucker, played by Roy Roberts. So far, so normal, at least for a crime picture. Force of Evil, however, segues into anything but a routine crime story. Before its 79 minutes are up, the film becomes one of the most audacious and subversive American movies of its era. Now, Polanski may have been making his debut as a film director, but he'd spent his whole life in an intellectual fervor leading to this moment. He conceived of the film as comprising three main artistic elements: the visuals, the performances, and the dialogue, with each given equal weight in his storytelling scheme. Now, that may not sound like some big revelation, but trust me, you will notice the difference. Force of Evil unfolds differently than anything else shown to date on Noir Alley. Things are relatively normal, up until Garfield shares a flirtatious cab ride with co-star Beatrice Pearson. Polanski gives free rein to an extraordinary flow of dialogue, unnatural language that seems to emerge straight from the character's subconscious.
Don't you see what a black thing that is for a man to do? How it is to hate yourself, your brother, make him feel that he's guilty, that I'm guilty, just to live and be guilty.
And from this point on, Force of Evil is unique, each scene coming at the viewer from slightly left of center, both artistically and politically. Polanski, who'd never made a movie before, not even a short, knew he was diving into deep water. But Garfield believed in him, and this was, after all, precisely the kind of challenge to Hollywood's status quo that inspired the actor to create Enterprise Productions in the first place. Major talent was enlisted to bolster Polanski's vision. Art director Richard Day had a resume that stretched back to collaborations with Erich von Stroheim in the early 20s and included later films such as Dodsworth, The Grapes of Wrath, and How Green Was My Valley. His production design here is austere and compelling. Director of photography George Barnes had been in pictures even longer than Richard Day. He was the guy credited with teaching Greg Toland the tricks of the cameraman's trade. Rebecca, Meet John Doe, and Samson and Delilah are just 3 titles that'll give you an idea of Barnes's versatility. To explain the lighting and compositions he wanted, Polanski gave Barnes a book of paintings by Edward Hopper, and Barnes's work does at times suggest the alienation and desolation found in Hopper's canvases. Day and Barnes were congenial collaborators with Polanski, but composer David Raksin was not. I interviewed him once prior to a screening of Force of Evil, and Raksin was vitriolic in his dislike of Polanski, calling him an artistic poseur. He nonetheless provided a fine score for this film, while leaving no doubt it was composed under a cloud of enmity. Force of Evil features terrific supporting performances from stalwarts such as Roy Roberts, Marie Windsor, Howland Chamberlain, Barry Kelly, and Paul Fix. Into this mix of seasoned veterans, Garfield added his personal discovery, a winsome 28-year-old Texas model turned actress named Beatrice Pearson, making her motion picture debut. It was a challenge for her, and she was a challenge for a first-time director, which I'll talk about on the other side. Right now, here is one of the most distinctive and provocative crime pictures ever made in America, Force of Evil.